footballers. So what we're going to do here is something that I'm honestly surprised no one else has done before. What we're going to do is simple. As you guys can see, I have pulled up here on my comic library the official handbook of the official handbook of the Invincible Universe. And we're going to be reading some excerpts from this because you know, with every new character that comes, people want to learn about their powers, their abilities, their history. So I'm going to be reading some of those bios back to you, particularly just the powers and abilities one. I will read the history portions later, but for now, I'm going over the abilities, powers, and known techniques for the simple reason that when stuff gets overhyped, the characters in it will, of course, get oversaturated and vastly over-exaggerated in terms of what they can and cannot do. So hopefully this will clear up some misconceptions about Viltrumites and about how the power system in Invincible works. And also, just want to bring up a little cool side note. Apparently, I did learn very recently that the abilities of I did learn pretty recently that apparently when the creators of Invincible were working together, they basically had the idea to hire 100 scientists to help them come up with the superpowers in Invincible. Now I haven't found the interview because apparently it's really old, but when we start getting to the appendix portion, and when we start reading how these characters' abilities work, you're gonna start seeing that maybe that's more than just a rumor. So now sit back, relax, and then we're going to start reading the Invincible Handbook, the official handbook of the Invincible Universe, explaining all the abilities and the powers of the most relevant characters. And what better way to start than with the main man, Alan the Alien. And this will be interesting. So we're just gonna go skip to the... We're gonna just skip to his superhuman powers as of now. We'll do the history and stuff later. Okay. So, Alan's known superhuman powers. Alan's physiology has been altered by Unopan genetic engineering, giving him many enhanced abilities and attributes. He has exceptional recuperative powers, endurance, and been made highly resistant to most conventional forms of injury. His body is capable of providing protection from concussive forces up to those of an anti-tank missile before sustaining serious injury. Alan can withstand extremes of both heat and cold. He can survive indefinitely in the vacuum of space without the need for external breathing apparatus. Alan can fly by manipulating gravitons, subatomic particles that carry force of gravitational attraction between particles around him. Again, remember when I said we talked about like these characters' powers being based off of science? And as you can see here, straight up says that the characters who have smart atoms, yes, Alan does have smart atoms, as you'll learn, fly via manipulating the gravitational attraction between particles. So that's how they fly. And he is capable of attaining near light speeds in a vacuum of interstellar space. Reaching such speeds near planetary objects could cause irreparable harm to them. In a planet's atmosphere, he can attain speeds of Mach 10 times the speed of sound, 7,700 miles per hour within seconds. His reflexes are enhanced in direct proportion to the speeds attained, enabling him to perform complicated aerial maneuvers with ease. Alan has had extensive training in multiple armed and unarmed combat fighting systems. He also possesses the ability to communicate telepathically and project his thoughts into the mind of others. This skill appears to function within the line of sight of his intended target, and its use gives Alan a headache. And also, we got a very good explanation for how the speed works in Invincible. When characters that can go as fast as Alan or faster or in the atmosphere of Invincible, they are legitimately stat blocked and they are unable to go at those speeds that they would be able to go to in the vacuum of space. And also there's a minor misconception that they can always achieve the speeds of reaction, the reaction speed of how they fly. This is true, but people also seem to forget another vital input. Notice how it says when he can attain Mach speeds in atmosphere, and his reflexes are enhanced in direct proportion to the speeds attained. Not his max speed, but the speed that he attains as he's flying. But if an attack comes at him that is at a higher speed than what he is flying at, he will not be able to react. And the same goes for other Viltrumites. For other characters with small atoms. So basically, just keep in mind that they can achieve high reaction speed, but only at the speed that they're currently moving at, not above or below, and below those speeds, but not above. And now that we got Alan the alien out the way, where you can see that the powers are very much or heavily based and restricted by laws of physics, we can now get to another character on this list. And since we're talking, and also remember smart atoms, because those are very important later on, and they are a vital crux of how the power system works in Invincible for everybody. And for now, and a character that can help us understand this now is Adam Eve. So let's look at her powers, because there is a bit to go over here. Let's start. As a result of the genetic experiments performed on her before birth, Adam Eve possesses the ability to rearrange matter and change it into other forms of matter. She has the capacity to mentally control and transform the atomic and molecular structures of all matter by manipulating the submicroscopic structures of atoms, which are the smallest unit of an element, to attain all the chemical properties of the element. Adam Eve can make atoms obey her will, see smart atoms, again, remember smart atoms, create new atoms from their component parts, and quickly arrange these into very large and highly complex living forms, such as trees. It is likely that with practice he could extend her range to include animals, humans, and other species, or even her own body, giving her own flesh atomic level strength. Again, notice how it says atomic level strength. However, Eve has displayed an inability to manipulate living animal matter. The exact source and nature of this inability is yet unknown. Like a Viltrumite, Adam Eve has an extensive control over smart atoms. Again, these smart atoms. Unlike a Viltrumite, her power extends to other bodies beyond her own. She can perform her work at a distance, and she has a deep understanding of the chemistry and increasingly the atomic basis of her work. Since Eve uses the same principles, a Viltrumite's only defense is in numbers and superior training, barring any undiscovered blocks in her abilities. So basically, she is a bit of a threat to Viltrumites. If she learned how to use her power, is a bit better. Through concentration, she can project a visible psionic manipulative energy field, the precise nature of which is unknown, but curiously appears pink color, which alters the arrangement of atomic particles according to any visualized form Adam Eve can conceive. She can rearrange elements so radically that she can transmute matter from one form to another. For example, she can turn solid rocks into flowers in a manner not yet understood. Her psionic powers prevent energy from escaping when she transmutes or uses matter. The limit to the amount of matter she can transform at one time is not yet known. She has, or at least on one occasion, transmuted 10 acres or 4 hectares of arid, waterless, hot sub-Saharan desert into a bountiful, rich and irrigated oasis. She is capable of psionically manipulating energy for a variety of effects, including the creation of shields formed from hard light energy, capable of absorbing concussive impacts. She can similarly construct wall-like protrusions and barricades, as well as shovels capable of moving or excavating earth and debris. Transformations that Adam Eve induces are permanent unless he undoes them. She can also fly or transport others by means of projecting solid light constructs beneath her and her passengers that effectively levitate and propel them forward at speeds of up to 130 miles per hour, the maximum speed that they can still breathe normally. Eve has, and again, notice how they're saying this specifically, being very specific with their powers, abilities, and how fast they can normally go. They go in an atmosphere, especially when they're carrying other people, which is actually very good to put under Eve because, she's a superhero and stuff like that. So again, notice how they're being very specific with the abilities and which characters those abilities refer the most to. So just keep that in mind. This is actually one of the best handbooks I've read because it's so useful and intricately done and relevant as well. Eve has a vast natural understanding of the atomic structures of materials. It is likely that this is a side effect of her power through subspace. That's going to be very important later, see subspace. So let's go over the terms we have to look into now. We have to look into smart atoms. We have to look into subspace now too. She reaches out to nearby atoms, understands their arrangement, remembers other useful arrangements, and changes the atoms as she wishes. In addition, there is no model, hypothesis, theory, or law of science that Adam Eve does not innately comprehend. Honestly makes me wonder why she didn't just make a nuclear explosion happen within Conquest's head with the air particles, of course, by separating the atoms there. But, you do you, Eve. But it is speculated that Eve's powers are greater yet. It appears that she may be able to extract energy from almost anywhere and apparently create new mass. See extracting dimensional mass. Again, smart atoms, subspace, and extracting dimensional mass. Again, understand all these scientific terms, since we're going to come back to them when we get to the glossary after go through reading all the stuff about Invincible, Omni-Man, and let's see, anyone else? Probably some others if I can think of them. And make normal atoms behave like smart atoms. Again, smart atoms are different from normal atoms. Atoms, to an extent, we're going to learn how later, maintaining their own structure and desired properties even without her direct control, regardless of their normal condition. If so, she has unprecedented control to create and control matter and energy at every scale, and is only limited by her imagination and experience. I would honestly love Eve's powers the most because they're just so versatile. I could get around the other stuff later. I'm mostly wondering why she doesn't just make a serum that can just genetically alter somebody's DNA to be like that of a Viltrumite. It's not directly manipulating the body. It's more of an indirect method, and we've seen that she's capable of doing that. Okay, now let's just keep reading. I can theorize on how people with matter manipulation and media are just so grossly underpowered for later. Adam Eve's power incorporated into her DNA and closely linked to her brain is far more powerful and sophisticated than later government onset uses of smart atoms, such as the implants given to the teenage Rex Explode. So yes, Rex's powers do operate off of smart atoms. Again, smart atoms are vital and crucial to how the abilities in Invincible work and function. It appears that Dr. Brandyworth, the father of Adam Eve, was the only human to ever master and improve upon Viltrumite technology. Right on you, buddy. But was afraid of the consequences and vowed never to work on such a project again. I wonder if he had lived long enough, I wonder what he would have thought of the Viltrumites just invading Earth right now. Okay, so basically we learned a lot about how Adam Eve's powers work, and also about subspace, and 2, extracting dimensional mass. And also about how important smart atoms are to the whole of the Invincible verse. Okay, so now that we have all that settled, we now learned how the, I'm sorry if I have to repeat myself a bit. I have to pause because I'm currently walking down a street. But for now, we now realize what we need to know. And actually, this was a really good primer. We read about Alan, and we learned about how characters within Invincible normally fly. We learned about Adam Eve, and we learned about how small atoms are vital to the entire framework of how Invincible's power systems and powers work in general. Well, all of them highly depend, or the majority of them highly depend, off of small atoms. And again, owing to the fact that these guys worked with actual scientists to help them develop these powers and abilities. Honestly, one of the most intricately done power systems I think I've ever seen, especially one based so closely to our real life sciences. Of course, with a bit of exaggerations, but still based more so off of real life science than most. So now that we've gotten into that, now we will go into another character. No, not Damien Darkblood. I had to flip my phone. And now, of course, let's see, did I talk about Immortal? I'm trying to see if I should talk about Immortal. Should I? I mean, his powers are closely linked to Viltrumite. Yeah, okay, you know what? Just in honor of his courage in the show, let's at the bare minimum talk about his known powers. Because his powers actually all derived from small atoms, too. Okay. Known superpowers. The Immortal gained the power of everlasting life at some point in the distant past through as yet unknown means. His exact age is unknown, but he is believed to be well over 2,000 years old. So he's older than Omni-Man, man by 1,000 years. He does not age, is not susceptible to disease, has exceptional recuperative powers, almost inexhaustible endurance, almost limitless stamina, and is invulnerable. Yeah, a lot of characters in Invincible have inexhaustible endurance and limitless stamina. So that's pretty interesting. Then, due to conventional and is invulnerable to conventional forms of injury. Should the Immortal be injured somehow, he could regenerate any injured or missing tissue. His head has been removed from his torso. Severing his vertebrae in two, and then okay, let's try that again. Should the Immortal be injured somehow, he could regenerate any injured or missing tissue. His head has been removed from his torso, so severing his vertebrae in two, and on another occasion, his upper body and lower torso have been torn in half, again resulting in the severing of his spinal cord. On both occasions, the Immortal has fully recovered within days of the incident. The Immortal could only die through an injury that disperses a significant portion of his body's molecules. The Immortal can fly by as yet unknown means. The Immortal retains the knowledge of his accumulated during the millenniums long lifespan, and accordingly is a formidable tactician and strategist with 100 lifetimes of experience to call upon. It is so okay. So yeah, I think going based off of this, we can also go into the fact that that sometimes the comic book and the handbook can contradict each other, but those contradictions are actually few and far between. Now, I have no doubt Immortal can have the ability to be a great tactician and strategist, but the show hasn't really gone out of its way to, show us all of that as of yet. I mean, it probably with the original Guardians of the Globe, but with the new one and everything else, we haven't really seen a lot of great plays for him, except when he was in the future and he basically had the robots just immediately serve the people after he died. So that was a good tactic. But for now, we're done with the Immortal. Oh, baby, come on. Excuse me. So now we're done with the Immortal, and we can get to Invincible, the main man himself. Now, there's actually a very interesting bunch of information talked about with Invincible's powers. So let's go into him, and we can through him we'll learn about a lot about Viltrumites in general. So let's look at this. Going to Invincible. And we're going And here are the powers and abilities, known superhuman powers. Let's go. Invincible possesses a number of superhuman powers and attributes common to the Viltrumite race, including superhuman speed, durability, stamina, and flight. And that, my friends, is all the powers that Viltrumites have, plus their smart atom physiology and their ability to basically warp space-time on a molecular level, but only around themselves and only in flight. You're gonna see what I mean later, but just know that those Viltrumites are more than meets the eye, and the most obvious things about them are not always indicative of what their true powers are capable of. So let's just read a bit more of this. The atoms. Okay, let's read this again. The atoms of Invincible's body are chemically the same as other atoms. That is, they form molecules and participate in normal chemical reactions. However, at a subatomic level, they are able to change their mass and energy levels in certain ways, using smart atoms. See smart atoms again. Viltrumite's powers and most of the powers in Invincible. 90% of them, if not all of them, work via manipulation of smart atoms in a way. I say 90% because there actually is some magic here, but most of the main characters either never encounter it or have no direct opposition to it whatsoever. So there is all of that. So basically, yes, the smart atoms on an atomic level are the same as normal atoms, but at a subatomic level, they work at a vastly higher degree. And we'll read a bit more before I start with another. We'll start with another explanation. Then they have permanently stronger bonds with other atoms of Invincible's body, so that its flesh, while feeling much like human flesh, can resist damage, including high caliber rifle fire. The chemical bonds involved in muscle contractions are many thousand times stronger than human, allowing for great feats of strength, as noted above. Of all essential chemical processes in his body are similarly strengthened, so that possessing chemical reactions such as those required for disease and fatigue have far less effect, leading to great endurance. Similarly, chemical processes involved in the growth and repair are far more efficient, allowing Invincible to rapidly recover from injuries. He may also have the extremely long lifespan common to the Viltrum race. It is conceivable that Mark could live well over a millennium or more. As noted, his chemical efficiency is due to the addition of extra energy to individual atoms at key points. The effects for other feats, for example, this allows for other feats. For example, a normal human body requires oxygen in order to gain energy by converting it to carbon dioxide. Invincible is able to gain additional energy from each atom of oxygen that reacts so that a single lungful of air could last for many days. His father, Omni-Man, once claimed to have held his breath for 2 weeks, and it is presumed that in time Invincible could do the same. So basically, when it comes down to it, on an atomic level, there's no difference between Viltrumites and humans. On a subatomic level, there is a vast difference, and it's the fact that Viltrumites just exert way more energy, that the small atoms of a Viltrumite take in more energy and exert more energy from the environment around them, in more ways than one. So now we're going to read a bit more. Changes in mass create changes in inertia. Invincible appears able to mentally control this on a bodily level, so that, for example, all his atoms can be given a net gain in inertia in just one direction. This allows him to move his entire body and fly at very great speed simply by willing it. Invincible has been observed to travel 8,000 miles in less than 25 seconds from a standing start, beginning and ending in Earth's atmosphere. In each journeys, in such journeys, like all Viltrumites, Invincible subconsciously creates a force field. See, force fields, again, we have to go look into smart atoms, subspace, dimensional mass extraction, and now force fields. Yes, Viltrumite's durability and non-vulnerability do operate via force fields. Just kind of like how in DC where Superman basically has, kind of like how in DC where Superman and other Kryptonians have that bioelectric energy field protecting them from harm. Viltrumites have a smart atom force field protecting them from harm as well. So now we read further into this. In such journeys, like all Viltrumites, subconsciously creates a force field. See, force fields to protect his clothing and any load from friction and the heat of re-entry. Freed of atmosphere, Invincible once flew to Mars, and for days the average distance between Mars and the Earth is 78 million kilometers, or 48 million miles. Accordingly, he averaged speeds of 800,000 kilometers per hour to reach his destination. Okay, so I took a bit of a pause there so I could just, use AI to help me figure out how fast that would go. And as you guys can see here, I'm also not going to really read this, but you guys can just read it off there. But I'm going to give you the just bulletin points. 800,000 kilometers in Mach speeds is about 2,331,000 Mach times the speed of sound. And how fast is that compared to the speed of light? Well, the speed of light is about 300,000 kilometers. Invincible is going at around 2.5 times the speed of light. So hopefully that answered about your question there. And now let's get back to this. Wait for it to reload again. There we go. Okay, I was worried I had to go down there for a bit. Although a passenger, so basically, yes, notice how it says freed of the constraints of flying in Earth's atmosphere. Again, very much confirming that for characters in Invincible to go at these high speeds, such as like light speed or even velocities above via the smart atoms, you're gonna know why I'm saying that later. But via those speeds, they have to be outside of Earth's atmosphere in order to do that. Because again, Invincible Universe is based very hard on science, and you cannot go at light speed in a planet's atmosphere. And as I literally just read, they need to breathe. They need oxygen. So if they just burn up the atmosphere and they have nothing to breathe before they go back into space, well, they're gonna suffocate and die like any other entity that would need oxygen. Even someone like Alan, who doesn't need oxygen, as you just read, and as I just stated, he can survive indefinitely, whereas Viltrumites can only survive as long as they can hold their breath, does not do that. So if he doesn't do it and he doesn't need oxygen, Viltrumites don't do it because they need the oxygen too. And again, Viltrumites can get the air knocked out of them. So now that I covered up that minor misconception, Viltrumites do need oxygen to breathe. They run out of breath, they'll die in space just like anyone else. And on top of that, they can only achieve these light to above light speeds in a vacuum and not on a planet's surface. Or even within the constraints of the atmosphere of the planet. So I hope we got that cleared. And also more stuff about passengers here. Although a passenger being carried by Invincible while he's flying will not suffer harm from wind friction, again due to the force field extending to them, very similar to Superman's bioelectric field, which he uses to lift heavy things without them crumbling under their own weight. Will not suffer harm from. Although a passenger being carried by Invincible while he's flying will not suffer harm from wind, friction, or air turbulence, Invincible must still travel at speeds that allow them to breathe normally. He is usually flying at speeds below 60 miles per hour, not greater than 130 miles per hour, while carrying others aloft with him. At a sufficiently small subatomic scale, mass and energy are effectively interchangeable. Well, again, going deep into basic physics and chemistry to understand their powers, because science is a very big factor in the world of Invincible. When it comes to smart atoms, Invincible's atoms, by changing their mass and energy levels, or simply exchanging energy from the normal background quantum foam. Again, we're going to learn about the background energy of the universe when we learn about how smart atoms and Viltrumite DNA works. Just know that when Viltrumites are using their powers, they're extracting it from the background quantum foam. And this goes for everybody using smart atom abilities, including Alan and Immortal, and Adam Eve's ability to manipulate matter. Their ability to remove energy allows his atoms to change their temperature where needed, allowing normal bodily functions to continue even when the outside temperature is near absolute zero. Basically, no matter what's happening, so basically he keeps him stable in extreme conditions. Zero and as hot as the surface of a star for a limited period of time. However, plasma implies highly energetic subatomic particles. If the temperature climbs too high, these can pass through and interfere in subatomic processes, thus putting an upper limit to the temperatures he can withstand. And basically, it's interesting because we really never exactly get any details on how cold something needs to be in order to freeze a Viltrumite to the point where they snap and break. But we do get a lot of details on how hot something needs to be to absolutely cook them. Anything around the heat of the surface of a star or even hotter can absolutely vaporize a Viltrumite. We see this when Flag and Mark are fighting on the surface of the sun near the end of the comic. And I'm not sure, that's not much of a spoiler either, so again, take with that as you will. If you don't want to know more and be actually spoiled, don't look into that any deeper than what I just told you. Just know that while they were fighting there, Mark was while they were fighting there, it was not easy for either of them. I mean, they were both getting cooked. Okay, back once more. Also, the extreme strengthening of normal physical processes is due to the subtle changes in mass and energy within each atom. This implies sophisticated feedback loops to avoid catastrophic chains in the more sensitive molecular processes. Similar processes take place in atoms of almost all so-called superheroes. Again, everything I explained for how Viltrumite powers work. Okay. Similar processes take place in the atoms of almost all so-called superheroes. Just went over that. All of those superpowers that you see, almost all of them, all end up coming down to smart atoms, and some people just being better at manipulating them than others. So whenever you wonder why Immortal is so weak compared to Viltrumites, well, now you know. Their chemical processes and their biology just works on a deeper level than anything on Earth has ever managed to conceive, except for Adam Eve, at least when she reached her full potential. The existence of smart atoms and their ability to manipulate subatomic processes is one of the marvels of the universe. It is a functional equivalent at the subatomic scale to DNA at a molecular scale, the human brain at a cellular scale, and the galactic empire at the human scale. Unknown factors. Okay, yeah, that's not important. So yeah, hold up. Okay, we got it back on, and apologize for that. That should be more careful when I move my fingers. And also, now we're just gonna look into Omni-Man, and let's just get into this. Okay, where's his powers? Because through him we can learn a lot about the Viltrumites. Okay, known superhuman powers. Like all members of the Viltrum race, Omni-Man possesses numerous superhuman abilities and attributes. He has exceptional recuperative powers, endurance, and is highly resistant to most conventional forms of injury. Omni-Man has virtually inexhaustible stamina and does not tire implicitly after any exertion. So basically, Viltrumites such as Omni-Man have inexhaustible stamina and near limitless endurance. His Viltrum physiology allows him to recover from physical damage at an extremely accelerated rate. His skin is capable of withstanding great heat without blistering at least 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit or 3,588 degrees Kelvin. Great cold without freezing down to at least negative 175 degrees Fahrenheit or 158 degrees Kelvin. And a great impact without injury. He can survive direct hits by field artillery cannon cells. Okay, so this is interesting. So I guess anything below 175 Kelvin, 158 degrees Kelvin, could sustainably give a Viltrumite something akin to frostbite. I'll have to look into that a bit more. Okay. So, and then he can survive unprotected in the vacuum of space at his ocean depths for as long as he's capable of holding his breath. Again, Viltrumites need oxygen to withstand deep space and also deep oceans, further emphasizing and explaining that. Iron-Man has stated that on at least one occasion he has held his breath on at least for as long as 2 weeks. He also possesses superhuman speed, stamina, enhanced senses, and the power of flight. So on the subject of enhanced senses, this is honestly one of the few couple of times that the handbook and the Invincible comic seem to contradict one another, unlike with everything else in here. So if I can list what the percentage of stuff like this is contradicted in the comic, it would only be about in the single percentile digits. Like maybe about only 1 to 5%, or even 1 to 3, and this is one of them. Because in the comics, Oliver and Mark explicitly state more than once that they don't have superhuman senses, and none of the other Viltrumites in the series act like they do either. So when it comes to superhuman senses, honestly, I don't really see a lot of cases of them having it. But if you guys have any cases of them having superhuman senses at all, then let me know. It is speculated that Omni-Man flies by means of manipulating gravitons, again, just like how Alan flies. Subatomic particles which carry the force of gravitational attraction, thereby negating the force of gravity, enabling him to fly at speeds rivaling starships. Omni-Man can hold his breath for 2 weeks, allowing him sufficient time to reach nearby star systems between 4 and 10 light years away, which would be possible because, again, just saw Orc fly at around 2.5 times the speed of light to reach Mars. Time dilation velocity are much more than 2 weeks on Earth, but other events indicate this still took days rather than years. It's apparent that at the same mass creation processes that allows inertial flight, again with inertia, that's important for the Viltrumites to be able to fly. Small atoms is closely related to subspace teleportation. See teleportation. So this is what I meant when I say you get to learn more about how Viltrumite abilities operate. You see all these people saying that they can just fly massively faster than light speeds and react at them? That is just blatantly untrue. Viltrumites fly via basically ignoring regular space-time and making small subspace jumps. Jumps and going into like miniature wormholes. And due to the small atoms, they're not compressed by the amount of pressure that would exert on someone with mass. And we're going to learn more about all that when we get to the appendix. And actually, we're going to learn a bit about it right now. Now, when inertial flight operates at maximum speed, each change of atomic mass is accompanied. When inertial flight operates at maximum speed, each change of atomic mass is accompanied by a tiny subspace jump, subspace, effectively multiplying Omni-Man's apparent velocity to well above the velocity of light. The Viltrums have extremely long lifespans. Omni-Man has indicated that he has lived well over 2 millennia as time is measured on Earth. So as you can see right here, I'll read that again just so everybody can understand, can really get it in. When inertial flight operates at maximum speed, each change of atomic mass is accompanied by a tiny subspace jump. See subspace, effectively multiplying Omni-Man's apparent velocity to well above the velocity of light. So basically, Viltrumites can only go above light speed via tiny subspace jumps that they can make while in the vacuum of space, because this is not possible on the surface of a planet or even in the atmosphere of a planet. So if Viltrumites want to go at massively faster than light speeds, they need these subspace jumps, and they need to be in the vacuum of space. Why is this a requirement for them to go at those speeds, and they're only capped at around Mach speeds in an atmosphere? I say Mach speeds because you can't go at sub-relativistic in an atmosphere either. So they're only capped at Mach speeds in an atmosphere, whereas in the vacuum of space, they can go anywhere from sub-relativistic to MFTL. But again, sub-relativistic is the normal speed, whereas anything above that, they need subspace jumps. Actually, no, you need subspace jumps with sub-relativistic too, because otherwise the mass will just still get compressed. Actually, hold on, let me check that real quick. Huh. Well, I just learned something new today. Okay, so going into Viltrumites moving at sub-relativistic speeds in the vacuum of space while in subspace jumps and being capable of achieving massively faster than light speeds, again, via small teleportation with subspace jumps. I actually learned a lot about how this actually does apply to Invincible, how great it applies to Invincible. And when I read this, you guys are going to think it's really interesting too. So, how dangerous is it to travel at sub-relativistic speeds? So, it's so good, I'm actually just going to read it to you guys. Sub-relativistic speeds refer to speeds that are significant factors of the speed of light and still below it. Typically, okay, I'm not going to read that part, 90% of the speed of light. Let's just say that, or about 0.1 Cs. At these speeds, several factors contribute to potential dangers. Kinetic energy. The kinetic energy of an object increases with the square of its speed. At sub-relativistic speeds, even small masses can possess significant kinetic energy, making collisions potentially catastrophic. So if you ever wanted to know why splat physics exists in Invincible, where if you hit something vastly more durable than you splat, well, now you know. Again, this explains why scientific understanding is very crucial to understanding the power system of Invincible. And again, further confirming that it's not a rumor at this point, as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of a just stated fact that the people who made Invincible hired specialized scientists to help them develop these power systems. They would have had to have made something this intricately done and this intricately made. Collision risk. At high speeds, even tiny objects like space debris or micrometeoroids can cause severe damage due to their high kinetic energy upon impact. This is a particular concern in space travel. So again, there's all that. Again, further with the kinetic and collision stuff. Heat generation. Moving at high speeds can generate significant heat due to air resistance, drag, and friction, which can lead to structural failures if not properly managed. This is what the smart atoms help protect them against. Radiation exposure, of course. Psychological factors, which they do not have to... Actually, wait. Viltrumites actually do experience some of these, as Omni-Man stated when he was talking to Oliver about Viltrumite mental health. And also, Omni-Man does indeed talk to Mark about navigational challenges in space. And said Mark's never been good at it. And again, more information there. So, yeah. Talking about all that is a perfect representation of just how scientifically involved, how much science is involved in the understanding of smart atoms in the Invincible verse. And also, again, I hope you learned a lot about Viltrumites and smart atoms that you didn't know before. But speaking about Viltrumites, we're going to actually do something else. So, let's see. We're going to take a break from learning about the superpowers for a bit. Actually... No, we'll get to him late. Actually, no, we're going to cover this now because whenever people try to usually get Viltrumites anywhere above moon or planet level, they tend to talk about this guy, and we're just going to go over his abilities and powers real quick so you guys are prepared for that. Known superhuman. Okay, Omnipotus, you guys know him. Okay. So, now. Known superhuman powers. Omnipotus possesses many superhuman abilities, only some of which have as yet been seen. We don't see much of him in the comics, just so you know. I hate to disappoint. He has powerful reality-warping powers, which include the abilities to reshape matter and energy, bend space and time, and alter, twist, or possibly even rewrite the laws of physics. Omnipotus appears capable of changing the face of the world by pure force of will. He possesses cosmic and psionic power beyond human measurement. His claim to have laid waste to an entire solar system suggests his power can initiate a chain reaction of exponentially increasing destruction. So again, he cannot destroy a star system outright like King Vegeta. All he can do is just straight up do it via chain reactions through reality warping and manipulating the laws of physics. He appears to channel the cosmic energy of the matter he destroys and converts that energy into a usable source of power, which he is then able to channel through his own body, enabling him to utilize his reality-altering abilities. During his first encounter on Earth, he indicated who the heroes gathered to oppose him. He was in the process of restoring his power to a previously even greater level, limits of which are unknown. As his self-proclaimed title of Shaper of Worlds indicates, Omnipotus is capable of rearranging and transmitting matter into any form he chooses. He can mentally manipulate the molecules of ordinary matter into any shapes with different properties and endue his creations with an visceral life essence, creating non-living automatons capable of performing complex actions and granting them the ability to move under their own accord. He also appears to be able to bend the very fabric of reality and reshape it in any way he chooses. The levels of cosmic energy coursing through Omnipotus make him almost invulnerable to all physical injury. Omnipotus breaks the barrier separating his universe from ours in a ship referred to as a warp vessel, utilizing a device called a warp key. The warp key, manufactured by a robot that sent an Omnipotus back to his own dimension, was destroyed following its use, preventing his immediate return to Earth. So again, most of his abilities are due to reality warping and manipulating physics. And he can channel some of this into his physicals, but again, considering that his already the impressive powers are not capable of outright destroying a star system, but only over time. And again, it does not tell us how long this took him. Actually, wait, just so we can be clear, let's look at his history real quick and see if we can see how long this would have taken him. Okay, let's see. So-called destruction, theoretically infinite. He claims to have completely obliterated his native universe. His travel to interdimensional key. Suddenly, okay, let's see. Okay, so we don't know how old he is. We don't know anything about his home universe other than the fact that he destroyed it over time. And the greater his physical and psionic powers become, which in turn increases his ability to destroy matter. So basically, he just destroyed it on a subatomic scale, not through outright destruction. Basically, what I'm saying is that Omnipotus did these feats through hacks that literally nobody else besides a fully realized Adam Eve could ever possibly have or measure up to. So now that we determined that his abilities are more so based off of hacks than raw physicals, again, his physicals are increased when he does utilize his abilities, but again, we don't know by how much, and it's very clear that his hacks carries most of the weight. Okay, so now that we get with Omnipotus, now I'm going to get to the other part of the other things. And what do I mean by that? What we mean is that we just been learning about Viltrumites a lot lately. So we're going to just keep that going. And how, you ask? Well, we're going to keep it going by learning about planet Viltrum. Right here. Because there's a lot of misconceptions about it, so let's just learn and understand how they operate and what occurs when they, Learn about the home of the Viltrumites. Okay, so Viltrum. I'm not gonna rereading all this. I'm just gonna scan over it so you guys can read that part. Okay, this should be good enough. Pause the video if you need a bit more time. The atmosphere is actually a bit more closer to ours, except they have a bit less oxygen and a bit more nitrogen. And a bit more methane. Okay, now we'll get into the important stuff after this. Type of government, totalitarian, level of technology, advanced starships capable of interstellar travel, utilizing both wormhole and superliminal faster-than-light drives. So again, the starships are capable of doing this via both wormholes and superliminal faster-than-light drives. So yes, the Viltrumites do utilize wormholes, and both the small atom physiology via subspace jumps and their starships. So yes, if they were flying towards a starship and that starship is operating on the same wormhole length that they are, then yes, they would have to dodge out of the way. Okay, let's see. And now we get to learn more about Viltrum. I'm gonna let you guys read this yourselves because I need to rest my voice a bit. And I'm gonna read some of the important parts out to you guys. Let's see. Right here. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, before they set off to conquer the stars, so this happened a long-ass time ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, Viltrum was walked by a horrific civil war. So, no, Omni-Man was not alive during the Viltrumite Civil War. Those Viltrumites that valued strength and believed in the natural... Actually, wait, I think in the comic, did they say it happened that long ago, or did that happen been only a few thousand years ago? I'll have to look back into that. But either way, Viltrum was walked by a horrific civil war. Those Viltrumites that valued strength and believed in their natural superiority decided to expunge the weak from the planet and set upon those who opposed them or were deemed unfit, and a global bloodbath called the Purging. Years later, the planet lay in ruins and half the population had died, but at the last, the weak had been eliminated. So basically, whenever you hear people talk about average Viltrumites versus average Saiyans, just know that the Viltrumites that we see on screen, or the elites, or the super elites, and the average Viltrumites have long since been killed off. And imagine how much weaker they are if they were killed off by these people, that most of which are not planet moon or planet level. Again, I'm not trying to trash on Viltrumites. I mean, I'm literally sitting here reading off the entire handbook of Invincible, because I expect this video to blow up. It should blow up because Invincible is blowing up right now. Also because I really do like the verse. But people need to understand, when it comes to versus debating, that paying attention to the lore, the narrative, and just blatant character statements in the history are vastly more important than a bunch of fan-made calcs and numbers pulled out of nowhere. Well, especially when they contradict the very narrative you're trying to put it into. Okay, so from that point on, Viltrumites adopted a brutal doctrine of eugenics. Only the strong were allowed to survive on Viltrum. Okay, and then they were built the world. The pattern was always the same when they wanted to conquer planets. A planet targeted for assimilation would be offered a chance to willingly join the Empire in exchange for Viltrumite technology and patronage. Those fears were destroyed by armies of flying supermen. So basically, they sent entire armies to just expunge entire worlds. After thousands of years of expansion, the Viltrumites reached their limit. Their supply lines were stretched dangerously thin, and they no longer had the ability to dispatch an army of Viltrumites to each planet they wished to conquer. to conquer. For a time, they used proxy armies conscripted from conquered planets as invasion forces, but it was clear that the booming rate of growth they had enjoyed for millennium had come to an end. A new strategy was needed. Select soldiers on the World Conquering Committee. Yes, that's a thing. It's not the World Betterment Committee like Omni-Man told Cecil. So were tasked with preparing suitable planets for inclusion into the Viltrum Empire. These vanguards were sent on 500-year-long missions to the target planet, where they would study the inhabitants, eliminate the defenses, and prepare the natives for the coming invasion. And of course, that's what Nolan did. And the only force willing to oppose them is the coalition of planets, led by the Great Thetas, who was secretly a Viltrumite opposed to his racist doctrine of subjugation and oppression. And so, yep, that is how the Viltrum world works, and that is how the Viltrumites operate. We get literally next to nothing on this woman, or any of the Guardians of the Globe, but we get an entire ass section about Wilson B.N., even though he's only in the comic for literally a few, like, 1 or 2 issues max. Okay, so me talking about this is, not, okay, but no, now we are done with all the essential stuff. Now we can finally we can get to the appendix. Now, what is the appendix? Let's see. Hold up. Dang it. Okay, this will be a bit much. Hold up. Okay, no, not that. The appendix. Now, what is the appendix? The appendix is the Invincible Science. Again, that important word. Appendix is the Invincible Science and frequently used concepts in both, and how the Invincible Universe works and how their powers operate. Now, again, before we read this, as I've already showed you, we're going to be focusing on a select couple things. We're going to be focusing on small atoms, teleportation wormholes, extracting dimensional mass, starships, small atoms. Oh, we always said that. I mean, Viltrumite DNA, Viltrumite technology, energy, and force fields, and energy crackle, inertial flux. Actually, I'm just going to read the ones that are relevant. You guys will pick it up. But the most important thing, the most essential thing we need right now is this. So, appendix, Invincible Science, frequently used concepts. We are going to now talk about the background, energy, and mass. This is very important. You're going to see how important when I get through reading it. Background energy, also known as quantum background energy, or cosmic energy, or zero-point energy, is the energy of so-called empty space. Again, remember that word, empty space. At scales of around 10 to 35 meters, all of space is a seething foam of random quantum fluctuations in which normal space and time break down. This is the source of wormholes, time travel, and mass that seems to appear from nowhere. According to quantum electrodynamic theory, subatomic space has almost unlimited electromagnetic energy due to the production of virtual particles and energy well effects. Viltrumite atoms, see Viltrumite DNA, and solar disk, see solar disk, are both able to extract this energy. At the subatomic scale, mass and energy are equivalent, as proved by Einstein. The same technology that extracts energy can also extract mass and return it to the background when that needed. At the subatomic scale, space and time operate at higher dimensions and so mass and energy from the quantum background is often said to be from another dimension. Please do not take this as saying that Viltrumites have anything like higher dimensional strength, because that's clearly not what they mean when they say dimension. So basically what this means is that Viltrumite powers and Viltrumite small atoms, as it literally says here, Viltrumite atoms and DNA extract energy from this, and that's what it meant when it said all that stuff about the chemical reactions and the subatomic particles being stronger than others. This is how it happens, and this is how it functions. They draw energy, and it's an equilibrium. They draw and give back energy into the 0-point energy, or the background energy, the cosmic energy of the empty space universe, which also explains. Actually, wait. Let me look into that a bit. Okay, so now we're gonna learn about what 0-point energy is and how it works. What is 0-point energy? 0-point energy refers to the lowest possible energy that a quantum mechanical system can have, which is net zero. This concept arises from quantum mechanics and suggests that even at absolute zero temperature, particles still possess a certain amount of energy due to their inherent quantum fluctuations. In more practical terms, 0-point energy is often discussed in the concept of quantum field theory and has implications in various fields of physics, including cosmology and condensed matter physics. Some researchers have speculated that the potential for harnessing 0-point energy at... Actually, just going to skip all this and we're going to go to the ones that are important. I'm going to just scroll through this slowly so you guys can see it, and I'm just going to give you a one-down bulletin point after this. Yeah, I'm going to trust you guys to make sense of this on your own. I'm letting you guys read some of this in case you want to read it, but like I'll give you the important bulletin points anyway. And also some of this is kind of just superficial stuff you don't need to know. And then 0-point energy is a concept that applies to the vacuum of space itself. So this question is there more 0-point energy in space or on other planets? Planets. 0-point energy is a concept that applies to the vacuum space itself rather than being localized to specific planets. This again is further explanations for why these energy wells more so exist in the vacuum of space rather than on planets, further explaining why they are not capable of achieving these above light speeds on planets, because of the simple fact that there's just less 0-point energy to take mass away from, to exchange mass with, and to access the subspace jumps. Huh. Oh, hold up, actually. In space, the vacuum of space is believed to contain a vast amount of zero-point energy due to quantum fluctuations. This energy is thought to be present everywhere in the universe, not just in certain cases or on specific planets. On planets, while planets themselves may have their own forms of energy, they do not have a greater concentration of zero-point energy compared to the empty space around them. Okay, no, so it is just like I said. Zero-point energy is property of the quantum fields that permeate all of space. In essence, the concept of zero-point energy is tied to the fabric of space itself, making it more abundant in the vast emptiness of the universe than in the localized environments of planets. If you have further questions about energy concepts or sustainable practices, feel free to ask. So now I hope you guys understand exactly how Viltrumite's powers work and how smart atoms function and how the speed and Invincible works. Hope that cleared a lot of things up. And now to further cement this, we're going to go into the other aspects of it. Let's see, what else do we talk about? Dimensional portals and teleportation, here we go. Traveling in subspace requires a body to be broken down and reassembled, see subspace. However, normal biological processes must not be interrupted or the traveler would die. So dimensional travel or teleportation takes one of two modes, portal or fade. A dimensional portal is a flat plane that connects two places. The plane is defined by rapidly moving particles that ensure each particle on one side is connected with its normal neighbors on the other side. A portal is useful where more than one object needs to travel to the same place. A dimensional fade is where a person or object appears to fade out, often unevenly. Uneven fading is an optical illusion, see energy crackle, caused by the bending of light around individual atomic black holes, see spit of space and wormholes. This is often accompanied by the appearance of small loops and circles at the edges of the teleporting object. The term dimensional travel can be misleading as in most cases a three-dimensional being travels to another three-dimensional plane. So yes, you can achieve these subspace and wormhole jumps on the same plane. A more accurate, thorough, unwieldy term would be teleportation to a parallel universe. Okay, hope that cleared a lot of stuff up too. And now we're going to just... Actually, you know what? They've been talking about this a lot, so we're just going to jump to subspace and wormholes now. So we're going to stop the subspace and wormholes. When a significantly large mass is concentrated in a significantly small space, a black hole is created. A black hole in the white place will create a wormhole to another location or even another universe. The distance traversed in a wormhole is known as subspace. Large and stable wormholes in useful locations are extremely difficult to create. However, subatomic wormholes in nearby locations are far easier to create. At nearby locations being locations in the same dimensional plane as their own. By creating subatomic black holes within atoms, see extracting dimensional mass, small atoms can pass information or particles to a nearby point instantaneously. A single particle can read the state of the large object, such as a human, and take each particle through a single subatomic wormhole and reconstruct the object or person on the other side. The quantum states of any region of space-time are encoded on the boundaries of that region. So the process of reading the data of a human while a complex procedure is a practical proposition. See dimensional portals and teleportation. And again, this is the subspace and wormholes are big factors in how Viltrumites fly across galaxies so fast. It's not really speed, it's more so them using subspace jumps via the small atoms, as it's literally stated here, by creating small black holes within atoms. These attracting dimensional mass and small atoms can pass information and particles to a nearby point instantaneously. So basically, they're doing wormholes and teleportation, and the small atoms are helping that information to be retained so they're not lost to the vacuum. Hold up a bit. What are subspace and wormholes? Subspace and wormholes are concepts often found in theoretical physics and science fiction, particularly in discussions about faster-than-light travel and the structure of space-time. Subspace definition. Subspace generally refers to a hypothetical space that exists alongside or within a familiar three-dimensional space and time. So, thankfully, now I've put an end to any attempt to try to get the Viltrumite to be higher dimensional by explaining that their powers work via the third dimension. And so that is very useful. In some theories, it is considered a dimension that allows for faster than light communication or travel. So, very interesting that we are now learning about this too. So basically, subspace is a dimension that allows for faster than light travel, and that is what Viltrumites are going into to go at massively faster than light speeds that they can only attain in interstellar flight between throughout the galaxies, or more like going between galaxies. Uses in fiction and science fiction, particularly in series like Star Trek, subspace is often depicted as a medium throughout which these craft can travel faster than light, bypassing the conventional limitations of space. So again, Viltrumites fly at massively faster than light speeds by bypassing the limitations of space, because when they are within the limitations of space, they cannot achieve these speeds or are stuck at Mach speeds. Then we get into wormholes. Definition. A wormhole is a theoretical passage through space-time that could create shortcuts for long journeys across the universe. It is often visualized as a tunnel connecting two separate points in space-time. Theoretical basis. Wormholes arise from the equations of relativity by Albert Einstein. A wormhole could theoretically connect two distant regions of space. Challenges. And the nature of exotic matter to keep it open. Again, with small atoms. Okay, so hopefully that answered a lot of questions about how subspace and wormholes work and how they apply to smart atoms. Speaking of smart atoms, we've been talking about those a while now, and I'm sure most of you are just itching for me to just get to them. So let's just get to these here. Smart atoms. Most atoms have fixed properties. See molecular power and atomic power. Smart atoms have variable. Small atoms. Most atoms have fixed properties. See molecular power and atomic power. Small atoms have variable properties which can be arranged to produce several useful effects. Although atoms are made up of only 17 fundamental particles, 12 fermions, and 5 bosons, each particle can exist in numerous frequencies, velocities, positions, and so on. As measured by Boltzmann entropy, the number of states a system can exist in and still be the same system, these states can be used for encoding information. Smart atoms remember their normal states in relation to the environment and can be encoded to act to changes in the environment, so how they can stay in shape when they go through wormholes in subspace. For example, atoms in a muscle can ensure that the molecules behave normally even under extreme forces, or atoms in the air can be forced to maintain their relative positions, thus acting like an impenetrable wall. At a molecular, i.e. chemical level, smart atoms are identical to other atoms when in normal use. They form conventional molecules which perform conventional tasks. Hence, a Viltrumite, for example, is biologically distinguishable from a human under normal conditions. Smart atoms are highly complex and difficult to control. It is normal for an advanced technology or civilization to make use of only one or two features of smart atoms and be unable to master other features. So that explains, again, how other characters that use smart atoms are not as powerful as some other characters, i.e. Viltrumites, who use them to a much higher extent. We are unable to master other features despite thousands of years of experimentation. Viltrumites are unique in not only mastering several useful features of smart atoms, but in being able to duplicate these features through their DNA. See Viltrumite DNA. And now we're going to look at Viltrumite DNA. Viltrumite DNA right here. Viltrumite DNA is the molecular code to create, maintain, and reproduce a human body, and using smart atoms. Viltrumite DNA aggressively self-repairs and adapts. When combined with DNA from other species, i.e. IG through mating, the hybrid Viltrumite DNA will first ensure its own survival and then gradually ends itself to be much more pure Viltrumite. The Viltrumite body chemistry is similar to human body chemistry, but the individual molecules of a Viltrumite body will perform their functions in extreme conditions or in opposition to extreme forces. The smart atoms add the necessary energy and mass when needed, again exchanging via zero-point energy back and forth, and without compromising the delicate balance of normal body chemistry. Viltrumite's muscles can produce greater force into almost any given task is performed. Viltrumite lungs can extract more energy from oxygen, allowing a Viltrumite to live for weeks off a single lungful of air. Viltrumite tissues remember their normal range of properties and strongly resist breakage. Other biological processes are similarly enhanced. In order to function as parts of conventional molecules, these atoms must coordinate their changes with other nearby atoms and remember the normal range of behaviors. A notable side effect is that by subtly changing the mass distribution of subatomic particles, Viltrumites can fly at great speeds and form feats that appear to ignore the laws of inertia, see inertial flux. These chemical reactions are all extremely complex, numerous, and almost instantaneous, and most of them happen unconsciously. Most Viltrumites, like most humans, are unaware of the detailed workings of their own bodies. The complexity of smart atoms based on DNA cannot be overstated. Numerous other attempts to replicate stable, self-replicating DNA based on smart atoms have all failed. Despite millennia of attempts by advanced scientists, only 3 non-Viltrumites are known to have equivalent power levels, and none of them duplicates actual Viltrumite DNA. See Alan the Alien, Adam Eve, and the Immortal. Again, all 3 of these characters operate via smart atoms. They just do not have it in their DNA like Viltrumites. And now we have the nature and origin here, and this will just seal the deal. Viltrumite DNA allows the Viltrumite body to harness background energy, see solar disk, as to augment natural abilities to an extreme degree. It is not known whether this DNA evolved as a result of evolution by natural selection, or if it was engineered in its present form, see Viltrumite technology. Viltrumite DNA is made from advanced atoms. See discussion under solar disk. Okay, I guess we're going to read solar disk next. So yes, Viltrumite powers just come from their DNA. Viltrumite DNA does not passively evolve when its environment, but aggressively maintains its structure. So Viltrumites do not evolve, they stand firm to any outside intrusions. This is both a great strength for its purpose is close to perfection, and a powerful weakness. It makes further evolution almost impossible. So Viltrumite evolution is kind of capped, as you can see. This is one of the main weaknesses throughout the series. What else do we need to look into? Now we're going to learn about inertial flux. Actually, let's just read force fields real quick. Force fields. A force field is a region of empty space or fluid that acts like a shield, usually created by and protecting a nearby person or machine. Force fields are made of small atoms. See small atoms that act over a short distance through subspace. See subspace. Again, even the defenses work via subspace. Typically, smart atoms will send controlling particles to a fixed distance and ensure that they then maintain that position relative to the host. The result is a barrier that resists penetration, surrounding the subject at a fixed distance in all directions. So even the defenses work via subspace, albeit more stationary subspace with the defenses. And then we get into inertial flux. Actually, let's read energy crackle first, real quick. Energy changes in small atoms often produce a shimmering or sparkling light, i.e., the shimmering or crackling of a trans-dimensional portal, or the pink shapes created by Adam Eve. All light is created by discrete energy changes. This at the atomic level, and the frequency of each proton is directly determined by the energy chain that created it. For example, Adam Eve's is a mixture of blue light at around 405 nanometers and red light at around 675 nanometers, plus a low level of all wavelengths to lighten what would otherwise be purple. This is the only external clue to the energy changes that take place when Eve uses her power. And then we're going to learn about extracting dimensional mass. Numerous beings, including Duplicate, Green Ghost, and Monster Gold, change their mass at will, gaining or losing mass to the cosmic background. See background energy and mass. The mechanism is as follows. Almost all mass of an atom is from its photons and neutrons, which obtain the mass from the movement of the constituent quarks and gluons. Small atoms can order the normal movement of quarks and gluons in order to increase or decrease mass as required. The remaining mass is the rest mass, or fundamental particles such as quarks and electrons, quanta of the Higgs field. Some small atoms are able to alter the frequency of these quanta, changing these rest mass as needed. By rapidly changing the masses at different parts of an atom, the atoms can be made to rapidly move. See inertial flux, which we will read next. Conservation of momentum ensures that the overall atom changes velocity. When atoms move in the same direction, the object flies or moves with great force. When atoms vibrate rapidly, their kinetic energy increases, and their energy is available to other processes, for example, superhero energy blast. And now, let's see if there's anything else we need to go over. Should we go over this? Molecular powers and atomic powers. Okay, let's see. Is this significant? Actually, yeah, this is a bit significant. Okay, we're gonna save the inertial reflex for last, and for now we're going to go into No, we're gonna talk about that in Austin's way. So, molecular powers and atomic powers. Advanced technology and superpowers can be divided into two groups: molecular and atomic. Molecular technology, the current technology of Earth technology, where all physical properties are the result of rearranging atoms with fixed properties. Although mankind has experimented with atomic energy, present understanding is extremely crude and amounts to little more than putting large quantities of heavy atoms together to create heat. Molecular technology can be developed in many ways. For example, muscles and bones can be made more efficient, allowing superpowered beings to lift several tons. Clothing can be made resistant to normal damage, and batteries can store useful quantities of energy. However, the fixed properties of atoms provide an upper theoretical limit to the energies and forces available. The fixed properties of atoms provide an upper theoretical limit to superpowers and other technology. Some beings, notably Viltrumites, have powers well in excess of these limits. Powers at this level are a reliable indicator of advanced atomic technology. See smart atoms implies technology that was not invented on Earth. And again, let's look into some scientific questions that I that I asked the internet for. Molecular versus atomic energy. Molecular energy and atomic energy refer to different concepts within the field of chemistry and physics. Atomic energy. This term typically relates to the energy released during nuclear reactions, such as fission, splitting of an atomic nucleus, or fusion, combining atomic nuclei. Atomic energy is a significant source of power in nuclear reactors and has applications in various fields, including medicine and industry. Molecular energy. This refers to the energy stored in the bonds between atoms within a molecule. It is associated with chemical reactions and can be released or absorbed during these processes. A molecular energy plays a crucial role in understanding chemical reactions, thermodynamics, and the behavior of substances. Now, which is more powerful? When comparing atomic energy and molecular energy, atomic energy is generally considered more powerful. Atomic energy derived from nuclear reactions can release vast amounts of energy with relatively small amounts of matter. For example, the fusion of a uranium-235 can release millions of times more energy than the combustion of fossil fuels or the energy changes involved in chemical reactions at the molecular level. In contrast, molecular energy involves the energy is associated with chemical bonds and reactions, which is typically much lower in magnitude compared to the energy released during nuclear reactions. If you're interested, okay, so again, that's to help you explain the difference between molecular energy and atomic energy. Atomic energy is legitimately, on average, millions of times stronger than the combustion of fossil fuels. It was all, just molecular energy involving changes associated with chemical bonds reactions, or much lesser than, nuclear reactions. Just so you guys can explain, like, how Viltrumites are so overpowered compared to everyone else in the Invincible Universe, all comes down to their atomic powers, the smart atoms. And now we can go to inertial flux. Inertial flux. Invincible and others can induce accelerations that would normally flatten any object due to inertia. Large objects are often thrown without any apparent Newtonian recoil effect, leading to the conclusion that this power of flight is based on atomic inertia. All subatomic particles are in a constant state of movement, sometimes moving in one direction and sometimes another. To enable flight or to retain stationary, to enable flight or to remain stationary when throwing a massive object, particles are given extra mass when moving in the desired direction and less mass in the other direction. See extracting dimensional mass, which we just read. The law of conservation of momentum does the rest, pulling each atom's center of gravity accordingly. Flight is the most obvious example of inertia being taken from and given back to the quantum background. Explode and dark seismic use a variation of this power. Rex causes small masses to fly apart quickly. Dark seismic causes large masses to fly apart slowly. So that's very interesting how smart atoms are so well ingrained in how these abilities work. Okay, so what else do we have to go over? Okay, let's see if we're done with all let's go over solar disk real quick, because those have been mentioned a lot and they have a lot to do with what we're talking about as well. And then after that, let's see. Okay, we'll talk about solar disk, and then we're going to talk about Occam's razor, and then we're just going to be done. Solar disk, also known as solar batteries, are the most common power source for superheroes see supersuits. When a new superhero appears, it is natural to assume that he or she relies on solar disk unless it is proven otherwise. Though widely believed to absorb and store energy from the sun, the term solar disk is a misnomer. Okay, I didn't actually know that. Even at 100% efficiency, a solar cell or a chemical battery cannot absorb or store enough energy for a practical superpower to use. Solar disk instead collect background energy. See, background energy. Okay, just have to make sure those are going. Some individuals, most notably Viltrumites, were able to collect background energy through the atoms of their own bodies, and so do not require a solar disk. Again, Viltrumite bodies operate via drawing energy from the small atoms, with the small atoms regulate with the background energy of the universe. Again, this has been listed. This has now been mentioned too many times for people to just blatantly ignore. You need to take this into account when you mention the powers and how they operate. Most superpowered beings are aware that misusing their power can be fatal in battle, so they develop a strong psychological barriers against this. Interesting side effect is that when a person believes that solar disks use sunlight, they are psychologically unable to use their powers in darkness. Again, determining how the... So again, this is actually interesting. Mind over matter to some extent. Neat. And now to cap it all off, we're going to wrap this up with talking about Occam's razor as the Invincible Universe explains it. And this is going to be really interesting. Occam's razor. Occam's razor is the principle that explanations should not be multiplied unnecessarily. Or in other words, a simpler explanation is always preferred over a more complex one. Occam's razor provides the best available answer to every question, but not necessarily the perfect one, because every scientific observation is forever tentative. Conclusions frequently change as new information becomes available, but at every stage, the preferred conclusion is the simplest one when given the available information. When applied to superheroes, Occam's razor leads to several conclusions. First, things do not just spontaneously happen without a good reason. Second, people are generally telling the truth unless it can be proven otherwise. Third, most superpowers use the same basic principles. And fourth, similar powers indicate a common historical origin, meaning that if one character's powers work a certain way, another character's powers will most likely work a similar way because they're based on the same principles like all smart atoms are. And with that, now we are done. Now, hopefully, you guys know more about how the universe of Invincible works. You know more about the powers, the abilities, and even the history of the Viltrumite species. These and how people can be, and now you can help to alleviate some misconceptions about the capabilities. I'll put the link to this comic, to the handbook down below if you guys want to try reading it yourselves. But for now, stay faithful, ballers, and it was a nice talking to you. I might do some more stuff like this again if I can find like some other data books to read. That would be pretty interesting. So, see you guys.